Hello, everybody, and welcome into another Flyers News and Rumors here at the Hockey Writers. I'm your host, Matthew Zator, and as always, joined in by Justin Giampietro. Justin, how's it going?
I'm doing well. We're recording right after World Juniors. Those two crazy games.
Yeah,
You really couldn't ask for anything better. Uh, a Flyers prospect won. Some Flyers prospects lost. So I
yeah,
think we'll get into that.
for sure. And we'll start with Porter Martone. We've talked about him many times, a top prospect on the Flyers. He ties the game, makes it 4-4. Everyone's going crazy, and then a minute later, Czechia goes and scores again, and they're up 5-4, win 6-4. But Martone comes captain of the team and ties the game. Had a pretty strong tournament, and of course, there's Flyers prospects also still alive in the tournament as well. All because with the semifinals, you still have the team still able to get something or play for something. They're not completely eliminated. But what do you think? What did you think about Martone's tournaments? Just in this game in particular as well.
Martone did put up a lot of points, but I think it was actually kind of a weaker tournament for him. I expected a lot more considering he was supposed to be like one of the best players on one of the best teams. And
Yeah.
I don't know, I just didn't see it. And, you see a lot of Canada gets a lot of coverage for this tournament. They go hard.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of Canadian fans not happy with how he played. And I can't entirely disagree. Like, yeah, he scored a clutch goal and he produced, which is something. But again, I was hoping for a little bit more, but even then, it's a 7-game tournament. You really can't put that much stock into it. I wouldn't. He has had such an incredible body of work to this point, and this is kind of I wouldn't call it unfamiliar environment, but it's unusual, right? This is a very high stakes tournament. This is like the highest of the high, only next to like the Stanley Cup playoffs. Like that's how intense these games can be. So I'm not worried at all, but I do think that Martone particularly could have been better. Luchenko, some people weren't happy with his effort. I was kind of in the middle. I think he did some good things, some bad things, but nothing really changes for me after 6 games at this point. It will be 7 once the bronze medal game is played, which Canada hopefully can win. Well, Finland's playing and the Flyers have some Finnish prospects, so yeah. I don't really have a rooting interest. I just hope they play well.
Yeah, we got Flyers prospects on both sides as there. So, do you have anyone in the gold medal game?
Jack Berglund for Sweden.
Right.
He's the captain, and he had. He's having a great tournament, I think, to this point. He scored in the shootout with Sweden's backs against the wall. That was a phenomenal game. They needed a goal, 5th shooter in a 5-shooter shootout, and he scored when his team needed it. And Frondell ends up winning it, Blackhawks' 3rd overall pick this past draft. But Berglund couldn't have happened without him. And honestly, I think he's been really solid, and people have been really, really happy with what he's been able to do for that Swedish team. And, captaining a gold medal team, that would be quite an accomplishment. Yeah. So we'll see if he can do that.
For sure. And Czechia, Sweden, Dayton's going to be correct in his prediction. He said that it was going to be that final. So I disagreed. I thought I had Sweden. I also had Canada in there too. So I could have been right, but ended up not being there. All right, let's move on and talk about a guy that was in the World Juniors way back when, and that's Trevor Zegras. And we've talked about him many times throughout the season already. He's up for an extension. Obviously, I think the Flyers are going to re-sign him. What do you expect for his next contract?
Yeah, I would hope that they avoid an 8-year extension. He is kind of young. He's only 24. He will be 25 in March. But you give him an 8-year extension that'll take him until he's 33 years old. That's around the age where players start to definitely fall off, and it's a big risk to give anybody that kind of term, especially if they're not a superstar player. There's maybe like 10, 15 players in the league where I would, no doubt about it, give them term until they're that old. But so that's kind of going to be the thing for Zegras. The Flyers could give him a 5-year contract worth a lot of money. Let's just say $10 million per year. That would pay him a lot, obviously. He'd be very happy with that. And then he could sign another extension once that deal's up. He'd only be 30 years old by that point, and someone's going to give a 30-year-old an 8-year deal. Could even be the Flyers. So I could see that making sense for both sides. But the term might come with some sticker shock, I would think.
Yeah.
The AAV might, because the cap's going up, and we're just not used to seeing these huge numbers. So he might get a lot of money, and that may ruffle some feathers, but I think he deserves it. If he asks for 10 million and it's not 8 years, it's not 7 years, I think he's kind of earned it to this point. He's a point per game player on the Flyers, a team that plays very defensively oriented, and he hasn't given up a lot of goals. That was kind of I wouldn't say the concern that he would be terrible defensively. I kind of expected him to, adapt, because he had done a little bit of that in Anaheim, but he has really stepped up his defensive game, I would say. He does commit turnovers once in a while, but overall, I would say his two-way game has improved, and the offense is at the highest level it's been regarding points. Maybe not overall offensive impact, but points. He's putting up points this year. So, yeah, I would give him basically whatever he wants, but I would be a little weary for that really, really long contract, because it does get you into trouble. The Flyers know it. With Sean Couturier, obviously they extended him a little bit older, but just in general, 8-year deals, you got to be careful. So we'll see.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the end. The next CBA puts it down to 7 again. So not again, but it's bringing down to 7. So I mean, that this is the last time these teams will be able to get 8. So I mean, if they don't re-sign Zegras to that, then they'll avoid it. So we'll see what happens there. All right, let's talk about another guy. We have talked about him. Denver Barkey has his first NHL goal now. Goal and 3 points in 7 games so far. What is his fit on the team? What do you think? And his future in the Flyers lineup as we keep going here?
Well, I think he's definitely earned himself a full-time role with the Flyers. I would think it would be pretty silly to send him down at this point. Even though he's lined up on the second line with Couturier and Tippett, especially, I think the whole time he's been in the NHL, I could be mistaken, at least the past several games. He's only averaging 13 minutes, but still, I think he's been incredible. He's really handled the responsibility of, what it takes to be an NHLer to this point. And he has 3 points in 7 games. He's a positive Flyer plus minus, and he's been pretty good. And again, this guy's only 20 years old. So to be able to come up from the AHL, and by the way, this is his first professional season. So to be able to come up and have the impact that he's had, I think is really, really impressive. And the Flyers clearly like him. Their coaching staff clearly likes him. Again, he's not getting a ton of minutes, but they're putting him in pretty high leverage situations. So it's good to see from him. And I think he only goes up from here. Imagine when he's 25, 26, 27, 28 years old, as opposed to only 20. There have been some times where he's had trouble with finishing, and that's kind of what you'd expect out of a player that young. He's only 7 games into his NHL career, so it's not easy to score on NHL goalies, obviously. And I think he'll learn that as time goes on, and he'll learn to just have a greater impact once he enters his physical prime.
Yeah, and the thing is, like you say, 7 games, and he's made an impact already, which is a good sign for the future. It's a very small sample size, but yeah, like you say, once he gets more comfortable in the league and with certain players as well, I think he could end up being more impactful as time goes on too. All right, let's hit the halfway point now. Most teams are now around there. Much earlier than usual because of the Olympics coming up. At this time last season, it was definitely not at the midway point. But what are you expecting from the Flyers in the second half? They're currently in the playoff mix. I don't know if everyone expected that at this point, but what do you think for the next half here?
It's really interesting to look at. I was looking at Hockey Stats' projection model. They have the Flyers at a 43% chance of making the playoffs, projected 91 points this season. So basically, from now until the season's end, they are projected 84 points the rest of the way. And right now, they're producing at about an 100-point clip. So that is definitely a deviation from what they're doing now. But it's not that unreasonable because I feel like if you were even an optimist, 84 points on the season would have been pretty good. So it's not totally crazy to think that they could just fall back just a little bit to borderline sub-playoff level, and that just takes them out of it entirely because of how tight it is, right? I mean, the gap between last place and a playoff spot is virtually nothing. I was looking at it today after the games. I believe all 16 teams in the Eastern Conference would be at least tied for a playoff spot in the West, and not even just a playoff spot. I think the top wild card spot in the West. That is how tight the East is and how not good the West is. It's very top heavy, the West, but definitely the bad teams are pretty bad. So again, if the Flyers do go on not even a skid, they just play okay the rest of the way, they could fall out of the playoffs. That said, I would expect them to play kind of how they have to this point. I mean, you look at the goaltending, that's kind of their most quote unquote unsustainable aspect, the most unsustainable aspect of their team. Vladar has been incredible, and definitely you wouldn't expect that from him. I mean, he's been a career backup in the league, and now he's playing at not a Vezina level, but a very high-end starter level for the Flyers. But that said, I think he's just been solid. Like, he hasn't been extraordinarily good. I just think that he's making the saves he needs to make, and once in a while he will make that highlight reel save. And for a defense first system, that's kind of what you expect out of your starter. So, I could see him regressing, but significantly, I'm not sure about that because again, he's just been so good all season long. We're 40 games in, and he's just given you solid games. He'll have the occasionally not great game, but overall, I think he's giving you a chance to win. And even Sam Ersson, whose numbers aren't great this year, some of the worst in the NHL, even him, he has more regulation wins than he does he has more total wins than he does regulation losses. So even he's giving you a chance to win, right? So, I don't know if they make the playoffs. It's a tough call at this point. I may lean yes, considering they've built not a big lead, but they have at least some cushion. And, they've just been in the playoffs all season long. We've seen this happen before in 2024 when they were in the playoffs all season long, and then it just completely fell apart. I don't know if I see them losing whatever it was, 8 games in a row, or I think it was 9 of their last 11, something awful. I don't know if this team is capable of that, but I guess we'll see what ends up happening. Admittedly, the bar for making the playoffs that year was a lot lower. I think the Capitals were at 89 points or something like that. This year, I mean, if the Flyers get you know, 95, they're not even guaranteed to make it. So I guess we'll see what the bar is and what they can do the rest of the year.
For sure. Like I was mentioning on the Red Wings video that the Atlantic is just insane. You got the Maple Leafs in last, and they're not that far out of out of third. So it's like it is really crazy. And of course, the Metro is actually pretty competitive this season as well. And people were calling that the weakest division going into this season. So the Islanders have surprised. You got the Flyers surprising. Even the Hurricanes, who lead the division, aren't that far ahead of everyone. It is a very interesting Eastern Conference this season for sure. And the West are going to have teams making the playoffs that wouldn't make it in the East, which is going to be interesting. It kind of puts more proponent to the go from the top to the bottom rather than going conferences, just go the league. But I don't think that'll ever happen. So. All right. Well, I want to finish because the Olympics are coming up. You got the Flyers having right now. I mean, not all teams have kind of officially released their rosters, but the Flyers have 3 going so far: Rodrigo Abels for Latvia, Rasmus Ristolainen for Finland, and Travis Sanheim coming back for Canada after his Four Nations appearance. But what do you think about? I want to ask you about Sanheim for one, because there has been some debate with him that maybe he shouldn't be part of the defense going. What do you think about these 3 guys going?
I don't want to be treasonous or anything, but I think Matthew Schaefer should have made the team. There are a lot of guys I think who should have made Canada who didn't. There are a lot of guys who I think should have made the tournament, period. Jason Robertson and Adam Fox, who didn't. So, yeah, I mean, but Sanheim, the Canada brass clearly likes Sanheim, so I can't disagree with the decision. I'm very happy for the player too, of course. I mean, at the Four Nations, I don't think he was particularly amazing, but he did help his team win gold. And there is a connection there with Doug Armstrong, who tried to trade for Travis Sanheim 3 years ago. The whole Torrey Krug, Travis Sanheim thing, that feels like forever ago, but it was pretty recent. And since then, he has really elevated his game. He was coming off a bad year that year. His stock was at an all-time low, and he's only improved. And it's clear that Doug Armstrong has been watching this player for a while. Canada's GM, St. Louis Blues GM. So I find it hard to think that there isn't something there. Clearly, this is a guy that they've liked for a long time. So congrats to him, and we'll see what his role will be. I would assume that it's kind of, the 7th, 8th guy on that team, not necessarily, definitely not top pair or second pair, but we'll see what kind of usage he gets. There are always injuries that do occur, so maybe he does get bumped up. Maybe he's like he's a placeholder type guy. We saw that last year in the Four Nations with Canada, so we'll see what he brings. Abels was just a guaranteed player to go to Latvia. They don't have a ton of guys there, so but yeah, it's always good to see guys play internationally. Maybe he has a good tournament. I mean, when the NHL guys weren't going to the Olympics, there were some surprise guys who played well, and Abels could be one. I wouldn't be surprised at that. And Ristolainen for Finland, he deserves, I think, to play some competitive hockey, I would say, because I believe he is the all-time, or something like that. He's the all-time record holder of games played in a career without going to the Stanley Cup playoffs. It was Jeff Skinner, but then he did go to the playoffs with the Oilers, and he notoriously barely played. But yeah, Ristolainen, he deserves to play some good hockey. So we'll see what Finland does. I believe they won the Olympics the last time. I'll admit I wasn't paying much attention to it because there weren't a lot of NHL guys there. But yeah, he's a good player for Finland. He has really improved his game, I think, in the NHL recently. So, we'll see what he can do there.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think, I was saying, Canada and the U.S. and probably even Sweden, I ice two teams, at least two teams that can be competitive in these tournaments. So you have so many guys to choose from. And, Sanheim, you're a trusted defenseman and they think you're going to help the team, that he'll be on the team. So ends up being there. And I mean, he's not a bad defenseman. He's still a really good guy. It's just, there are a lot more that maybe, talent level, maybe. Matthew Schaefer, I think, is the biggest one because of what he's doing in the NHL right now. But very young. I don't know if they want more of a veteran group going as well. I mean, there's always those factors. So, they're the decision makers. We're not. We just to look at it afterwards. So we'll see what happens with all these three guys for the nation. Come up in about what are we at? Hockey usually is later in the Winter Olympics. Winter Olympics start on the 6th, but I don't think hockey doesn't get started for I think it's the first week. There's nothing, but I can't remember. I know it's later in in the Olympics when stuff gets started there. All right. Well, thanks, Justin, for coming on and talking Flyers as always. And of course, World Juniors for a little bit there. But yeah, make sure to check on everything at thehockeyers.com. We got great coverage for the World Juniors going on. We've got Flyers stuff, lots of other stuff coming on as everything gets going with the Olympics. The draft is coming really soon as well. And that coverage will start before we know it too. So check out all that, our Substack newsletter if you haven't subscribed, and all of our other videos on the YouTube channel. But until our next one, we will see you next time.